evening, Ross. How you doing?
Good evening, Peter. Long time no see.
Yeah. We missed out Wednesday there, but
my fault.
We'll get to that in a minute. Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen all over the world. Wonderful to have you joining us tonight. I am thoroughly looking forward to this show tonight. Two fantastic guests for you tonight. From Canada, we've got Bob Worrall, and from Inverness, we've got Bruce MacGregor. So I am so looking forward to all this. Remember, folks, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Okay? So please share it about. It would be fantastic if you could share this about. If you've got any friends that you know like traditional music, piping and fiddle playing and accordions and everything else. What kind of week have you had, Ross?
Painful week.
Oh yeah, you've not had quite so good a week as we have.
That's the reason we never had a broadcast on Wednesday there. I'll take the dive for that one. Had a wee hernia operation there, which is I'm on my feet now. So
on your feet now.
Mm-hmm.
How's it feeling? Not too bad, but not quite up to piping yet, I don't think.
No, I'll not be piping tonight, that's for sure. I don't know when I'll be piping. I'll give it a bit of time. So,
well, actually, we're going to try something new tonight, folks, to what you see, a wee bit of technology that Karen backstage has worked out today. But in fact, I think we'll do that possibly now. I think we'll have a wee tune for Ross. Ross, what is this tune that you prepared earlier for us?
This was a tune that I did. We had a previous guest that we had on, John Bullow from the Scottish Air Ambulance. I wrote the Air Ambulance a tune last year, and I presented it to them last year. So I think the video is the day that I went down to the airport and presented it to the team there.
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. What's the tune called?
The tune's called Angels of the Glen, which is supposed to represent the effect that the helicopters have on the Scottish Highlands. And I think for a lot of the patients, I think it is that. Right?
Take it away then. Here we go. Hey, fantastic.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
That's great. That's marvellous to know that we can do that now as well.
I might take more nights off.
Fantastic to see so many people joining us. Good to see you're back on your feet. You've not had such a good week with the hernia op. I've had kind of pretty busy week teaching. Today was putting up Christmas decorations for the wee girl, helping her paint. There's what's it called? That confetti, tinsely stuff everywhere. It's all over the place. Glitter, that's what it is. Glitter. There's red glitter everywhere. Anyway, that's what we've been up to. So, and it's also been the MG Alba Scots Trad Music Awards this week, and it was last night, and there was the guys done brilliant. Simon Tumeyer and them still put a show on, even though it was virtually, but it was on the telly, and I was really lucky to be nominated in the Musician of the Year category. And even though I didn't win, a great pal of mine did, Tim Eady, and he's a great guy. So congratulations to Tim for winning. But there's also something else that got an award last night. as you know, we go out on all these different channels, including Tunes in the Hoose. And Tunes in the Hoose won the Community Project Award last night, which was utterly fantastic. So I think we will bring our collaborator on, Mr. Martin McLeod. Hi, Martin.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Congratulations to the Hoose.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that. I'm struggling a wee bit to hear you, but hopefully I'll manage. Yeah. Okay. Exciting night last night.
Brilliant. Fantastic. You know, this year seems to have gone exceedingly very fast in a way, but when you think back to, say, the start of lockdown, that seems a long time away. And when I think back to when I played that set of tunes, it seems like a long, long time away. And you got in touch with me 2 days later and said, I'll put the fiddle on this, and then it started, didn't it? Tunes in the Hoose started. And away it went. And yourself and Martin McLeod Jr. Took it to a new level altogether. So it's been fantastic to see award.
That's right. It's been, well, that's 8 months, Peter, as you say. So, yeah, 19th of March, I think, is when you put up your first post, or we put up our first post together. And, well, I didn't really think much would happen after that. But, you know, the story kind of took off very quickly. And, it's brilliant. I mean, we're so chuffed. We're so chuffed to be nominated anyway, because there's so many great things in the whole Trad Awards and all the other sections, which we'll probably talk about as well. But brilliant. Just to be part of it was really exciting. And so we were fair chuffed, as they say, and especially for all the musicians who take part, because there's about 900 of us now in total. Not everybody's on all the time, but the group is about 900 strong, which is it's a testament to it, I think.
Yeah, it's incredible how many people.
So yeah, and yeah, and I think Martin was saying we're about 3 million views now. So when you take the productions together, so so we're really and I'm really pleased for all the musicians that are involved with us. You know, because there's been musicians who've been nominated for different sections as well, and they're all part of the Tunes in the Hoose group. So I'm really chuffed for them to be recognised, because it's the group that's won it, not us. It's the group that's won the thing. So, but I do have to say a big up to Martin, as you say, because I think a lot of people think it just happens, it just comes together, and it's an awful lot of work. I mean, he does video editing, film stuff, so imagine every device that we record on, that everybody records on at home, they're all different, and then he has to manipulate everything into, and it takes hours and hours to do one single piece. So, you know, fair play to him. He's put in all the effort to pull it all together.
He's done an incredible job. And then something new that's coming out this week as well. Have you got one there?
Yes, I've got 2 plugs, if I'm all right to do 2 plugs. The first one we spoke about this, I think, before, been on the Facebook. We're doing our Care Home Ceilidh. Now this is kind of Tunes in the Hoose hosted. So we're using sets from Tunes in the Hoose that we've all been doing over the last 8 months, plus a few extra guests. And Martin's turning it into it's actually going to be about an hour long. It's a whole, almost like a TV show, featuring all the different things that we've been doing. So with a bit of luck, you'll have that finished off tomorrow, and it'll be up. I think Karen's got the links on there. Care Home Ceilidh, but it's really just a Ceilidh for anybody who's missing out on the music and wants to listen and tap their feet, sing along, clap along. It's really just for everybody, but it's especially aimed for those who are missing on. You know the thing, Peter. There's usually Christmas parties and I play and folks' homes and all that, and a lot of people play in hospital. None of that happening. So I thought we'd put something together, and that's going up tomorrow night. Fingers crossed.
Brilliant. Great.
Yeah, brilliant.
Can't wait.
Great stuff. And the book that's out.
So that was my first plug.
Aha!
And your second plug.
This book.
Please. That's one. This is one.
Yes, our Tunes in the Hoose season 1. So we got our hands on the book this week. So it's a compilation from the first 100 productions that we put together. So it's as many of the tunes as I could get together in their sets, plus the storyline of Tunes in the House, how it all came about. So they're available on a website, and of course all the proceeds from that go towards the organisation to try and keep things going beyond the first spell of putting things together.
Fantastic.
Absolutely brilliant.
It's so good. And I'm actually, when I go to play my accordion tunes tonight, I'm going to play that first 2 tunes in the book that was the very first start of the whole thing, which was Dovecote Park and the McNeils of Ugadale. So
Ducat Park or Dove, that's it.
Ducat.
Or Davy Hunter told me Ducat Park. I think so he pronounced it. I thought it was Dovecote Park.
Well, after that, we've got Bob Worrall coming on.
And thank Davy, who you were as well. Peter's been.
Yeah. Davy's been fantastic. Anyway, Martin, thank you so much for coming on, and congratulations again. And please pass this all on to Martin Jr. as well. And it's fantastic to be working with you right through all this stuff. Fantastic.
Will do.
Take care.
Well done.
We'll
Thank you, Martin. Thank you.
And thank you, Peter, for thank you. You've been a big part of it all from the start. So good luck. Have a good show. Enjoy your great guests on tonight. I look forward to listening in.
Yes, it's going to be a good show. Good show. Excellent. Thanks, Martin. There we go. I think we lost Martin's reception just a wee minute there at the end.
Aye. So it broke up slightly there, Peter. Tell us again. In the 2 tunes you're going to play were the first 2 tunes that triggered this. Right?
The 2 tunes were the first 2 tunes I sat down, thought we're going into lockdown or something like that. It was the week we finished it. That, so I thought I'm going to play a couple of tunes, stick them onto the internet, and hopefully it'll cheer folk up a wee bit. And the response was phenomenal. But the big, nice response that came through as well was Martin got in touch again. And I'd known Martin for years, but we hadn't spoken to each other for a long time. Martin got in touch and said, hey, I think we could do a fun thing here. I could put the fiddle onto that and send it back to you. And that started the whole process going. And then Martin Jr. got involved, who is a professional filmmaker. And away it went. So there we go.
Good stuff. So it's Ducat Park and
McNeils of Ugadale. That was the start of Tunes in the House. Right. So I'll play them tonight, and then we'll get a guest on. And it's fitting because it's a couple of pipe tunes as well. Hey. hey, there we go.
Very well played.
Broad tunes.
Couple of classics.
Broad tunes. You can't help but play tunes like that nicely.
Yeah.
There we go.
I know the first one. You mentioned it before, how it's pronounced. I know it as Ducat Park, and I know it's the first march on tune for the Atholl Highlanders marching down Cannon-Bray in May.
Ducat.
I know it as Ducat Park anyway.
Yeah, I don't know, but I've maybe called it Dovecote Park sometimes. I don't know. There we go. Anyway, listen.
Can I just say a couple of thank yous before we go into our first guest, Peter? Is that okay?
Please, you go for it.
Do one big thank yous to the care that I had when I was in Perth. I obviously had a hernia operation this week, and I know that Martin Gillespie, who was a guest in the show, won on the Trad Awards for the Scarab Award one. You Everyday Heroes.
Yeah.
I think that's very apt for the occasion.
Yeah.
And you can't. The team that are in the hospitals are just the best I've ever seen. And so I can't thank the team that looked after me enough. And when I got home, Gwen and Sebastian, thank you very much for looking after me. Plenty of coffee and Oreos. Thank you very much.
Another good team.
Another thing that kept me entertained is the music from John Dew's book, who's a guest in the show as well.
Yes.
So I'd like to mention he had a book launch this week, which I was going to mention on Wednesday actually, which I never got a chance to. So I'd like to mention it now. His book launch was this week, and I said that I'd mention on the show tonight that there's a 24-hour period between now where the book is still at the pre-launch prices.
Oh, brilliant.
So if you're still wanting to get, and I recommend you get John's book, it's fantastic. And that's at John Dew. We'll get the link up to that. I was maybe a bit sharp getting that up there. John Dew.
Look at that.
There you go.
So, remember, folks, this is all recorded, so you can look back on this. Don't dash off to get a pencil and paper. And we'll put all this information onto our Facebook page as well. It'll all be on there.
Yeah. So thanks for all that support there and entertainment, John. Thank you.
Great stuff. Listen, we have got this amazing guest coming on tonight that I've really, really been looking forward to. A gentleman I've seen on the television many, many times presenting the World Pipe Championships with Jackie Bird. And I'm so pleased tonight that we've got Bob Worrall all the way from Canada joining us. Hello, Bob.
Hello. Good to see you all.
How are you doing?
Doing fine. Surviving during crazy COVID times, you know.
Yeah. It's hopefully light at the end of the tunnel. We are hoping, but things are changing and have changed a lot. So, but nice to see you, and you're looking healthy there. So that's good.
Trying to stay healthy. It's all the Christmas baking, you know.
Oh, excellent.
I don't want to talk about the COVID calories that are going on down here, but.
Ross does a lot of baking for his neighbours because he plays the big pipes, you know, so he has to do a lot of baking to make up to them.
Yeah, I've got very good at oatcakes. That's yeah.
Well, you're good at the oatcakes. I think I've got a Scottish tablet master. At least I'm told.
That's it. That's the masterpiece. If you can do that.
4 batches so far this Christmas season.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we could have a whole show, no problems. Love to just get straight away into and a bit of the background behind you and how you got started, where you're at.
Well, in the background, I come from a little village, about 800 people. They still have a village pipe band, and when I was a kid, I was 12 years old, and the village wanted to get a pipe band going, and it had a lot of Scottish heritage in the village and its founding and everything way back in the mid 1800s. And so they brought an instructor in who was living in another town about 45 miles away thereabouts to help teach. And they knew that they had to get kids involved if they're going to have a successful band in the long term. And I'd always loved the pipes. And another town over on Lake Huron, not that far away, kind of a touristy town, and every Saturday night the town pipe band would march down the street And I would, and the tourists would all march along behind them. So I would always be egging my parents on to drive over there so we could listen to the pipes and everything. And now in retrospect, I look back and it was probably not very good piping, but I was still drawn to the sound. And so when the chance came to learn, I jumped at it and it just kind of went from there. And it just, I guess the whole piping thing for me, there was no game plan. It just happened. You know, you played the chanter and played well enough to get the pipes and got your first set of Granger and Campbell pipes, and you moved on from there. And you, all of a sudden, the teacher's saying, "Well, there are these things called competitions," and I thought, okay, so in you went, and it happened. And then you joined the bands, and then you joined the grade 1 bands, and here I am today. You know, like I think look back, it's really kind of an interesting, multifaceted journey, but it's been a lot of fun.
A wonderful thing having yourself on tonight is because, you know, quite often we get a player, but you're a player, you're an adjudicator, you're an educator, and you're a composer. You've covered so many angles, which is wonderful, and gives you a broad spectrum. It was funny when you were talking about learning there and not necessarily the standard. I think I read an article or something on the internet about yourself once, speaking about how important tuition was, and you felt even tuition was important for pipe majors and everybody still to this day to keep advancing. You know?
Absolutely, everyone needs a guide in the side. Everyone.
Yeah. Because I think I read the week before when you stopped solo competition, you had a lesson that week. I think it said that you'd had a lesson, and then
weekly. Yes, absolutely. Weekly sessions. Absolutely.
So who was teaching you by that point then?
Well, the fellow who started me, his name was Bill Miller, and he came from Northern Ireland. He came from Omagh in Northern Ireland, and I believe he was a cousin of Harry McAleer's father, maybe second or third cousin. So there's a whole connection there in Omagh. And then as I proceeded through the amateur ranks, he pushed me on to the late John Wilson, who had come over from Edinburgh, was living in Toronto. And all of us at that point in time who were really striving to improve ended up going to John. You know, Bill Livingston, myself, Ray Mackay, we all went to John. And then I was in graduate school at the University of Western Ontario in London, Ontario, and Willie Connell had emigrated over from Glasgow just a year or so before that. And it turns out the apartment building I was living in was like 2 blocks away from his home. So, and he had a long tradition with the late Robert Reed. So I jumped on that chance and still went back to play tunes for John Wilson, still went back to play tunes for my original tutor, you know, because they were all really fundamental in contributing to where I got in piping and that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ross, I can tell he's got a store of questions here.
No, but Peter brought up a good point about there's always about learning, that there's always pipe majors need to learn, everybody but you're famous for your crit sheets always having something in there for you know, it's quite often a crit sheet in a competition when you're being judged, as you have judged for years. Quite often you'll just get what was wrong with your performance, but you're very famous for in the notes expressing how to improve that, you know, like expression, like how to improve, you know, that, and I think that's a quality that you bring to the table in your adjudication.
Yeah.
I think
there was that's Amazon arriving at the door with another Christmas present, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really important for me. I'm a real visual learner, and at the end of the day, when you look at your crit sheet, and if you see that kind of combination of real positive comments, the things that really inspired you in the performance, and then the spots for kind of constructive, you know, criticism, if you wish, you see that balanced view in the sheet at the end, and it's easier to kind of order your performances in your mind as to which really was, from a global standpoint, a slightly better performance than the other. And bands have worked so hard over months and months and months to perfect what they're giving you out there, regardless of the grade level they're playing at. And I think they deserve to get that positive feedback. I think it's really, really important. And even at the lower grades in that it's a motivator. It's a motivator.
Yeah, nothing beats constructive criticism sometimes in a way, does it? It's guide someone that way and help them out. It can make all the difference to their future.
Yeah, the World Championships, you've been there for a number of years now. You've been there long enough to see what it's grown into. Really, it's grown into something that you can definitely say is professional.
Absolutely.
That are completely different. You know, when you look at everybody, the input that everybody's putting in, it's hard to explain to everybody the hours that has gone into that one performance that you're seeing.
You know, and we tell in our training sessions with our adjudicators here that doesn't matter what band it is, it's coming to the line, whatever grade level, you know, at the novice grade level straight through, that the collective energy that has gone into what they're about to give you. And sometimes it goes well for them and sometimes it doesn't, but to respect what has gone into that preparation and the sacrifice, and in particular for bands from overseas going over to the World Pipe Band Championships or the other championships there. And it's the financial sacrifice, the family sacrifice. It's immense. But of course it's a passion. And of course this year that was all, the rug was pulled out from under us all, and bring on that vaccine, give me the stab as quickly as possible, you know.
Maybe that's what Amazon just delivered.
I don't think it was UPS.
Yeah, they'll be next month.
Yeah. Now, I was going to say too, Ross, that now that you're recovering from that hernia surgery, that I'm quite good friends with Ian Duncan, who's just down the road from you there. So last I heard, Ian still has a stash of good old McAllister reeds that he might fit you out. You know, I had one of those devils that I played for 23 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
23 years. And it was the only reed of note that I was playing, and it just kept going. It was like the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah. I remember when I joined the Black Watch, I got issued a set of brogues, and they were treble soled, and I picked these things up, and I said, "Why on earth do I need brogues like this?" And then one of the next things I got was I don't know what it was. I think it was a McAllister reed, and then you know, and now you had a hernia surgery, right? So, yeah, well, there you go.
I remember many hours of pain when I was about 8 years old that everybody used to use McAllister reeds at one point in time. And if you were seen with a matchbox trying to shave bits off it, you had it. So, but very interesting what you're saying there. This year, everything has gone strangely. Tuition and things, we've found we've had to do a lot online and things. Do you teach online yourself quite a bit?
I do. You know, Zoom, a lot of Zoom lessons, a lot of Skype lessons. I've been teaching like distant learners for some time. I've got a couple of pupils in Singapore and some in Australia and throughout the United States and South Africa. And then some distance ones in Canada, because, you know, we are kind of a large geographical country. And but the ones who normally are local, who would come to the house for lessons, for the most part, those have all been Skype too, until very recently. And so I would say in terms of teaching, it hasn't impacted the amount I'm teaching. If anything, the amount of teaching has actually gone up. And, you know, as I said, we were chatting a while ago with that. I just kept telling them, I said, look, you do not have your regular in-face solo competitions now. So view this as a chance to sort out any of those little technical Achilles heels you've got going, or some tonal issues, and expand your repertoire. The big thing is expand the repertoire, and this year's been a great opportunity for that. And there've been the online competitions. They've taken a wide variety of formats and I've adjudicated quite a number of those. And I think they've served a really good purpose, in particular for the younger up and coming players, and then the group of professional players that I call them the young guns. And I tell you, some of those young guns are playing extremely well right now at a very, very high standard. So it's been really good to keep them motivated, keep them going on. I think it's been tougher for the well-established elite players, where they, for the most part, have not gone into those events, and for them to stay motivated to continue to keep the edge in their playing. That's been the difficult bit.
Well, Ross, I know Ross had a question about that. What you were wondering about the online competition.
The future. Do you think online has a place in the future post-COVID?
Ross, I think it does. And this COVID thing isn't going to stop like that. And I think we're going to see a number of the online contests continue into the new year, well into the new year. And then it'll be interesting. I think it's going to be kind of a gradual fading out of online contests as we know them, as we get into back into the live competitions. But here was an interesting thing. Excuse me. I did my first online competition was for the folks in Australia, and they got a hold. This is before COVID, and they said, we'd like to have for our next big Pibroch competition, and they had three grade levels, and we'd like to have an outside adjudicator, but for that organization to fly someone in, the funds would just collapse their funds. And they said, so how do you feel about the following? We have a live competition, audience, the whole bit. And Murray Blair is going to record it. So you know that all the recordings are going to be of the same quality. And he will do the editing down to that to get rid of all the tuning time and everything else. And he'll fire those off to you in files, and have a listen, do up the score sheets, and give us the result within X number of days. So the following weekend, then the official result would be announced. So that's what we did. And is that ideal? You know, people want the result at the time, but if they want to get an outside adjudicator in, it's a way of doing that and avoiding a big expensive flight and accommodation and everything else. And just, I was just sitting here listening to the tunes in my pajamas in the morning. It was great. You know, we've talked about it. I did another one of their contests, but it was the usual recorded performances and all that kind of thing that people have been doing. But they're talking about doing this other thing again. And I think it has some real merit. The only thing is you don't get the result at the time. But I tell you, with Murray doing those recordings, they were really top flight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely top flight. Yeah, so we'll see if that continues. So it might be something that would continue in addition to all live contests, in-person contests.
Yeah.
Well, like you said about that kind of middle ground, you know, it affected the very, very top tier the most, because the edge, like you said, you have to be out there. You have to, like, there isn't. Then that's one thing the internet can't do.
That's right.
In the edge, you have to be out there, like the Glenfiddich stage, like all these different stages around all the different big performances that you do. It has to be there. It has to be in person. It has to be the person you go to see play at that second.
Yeah, and you know,
I think this year has brought a lot of people. We've talked about it with different guests on the show. It all varies, in musicians that have never played for years have just poured their life out this year, that got the instrument out, got back into it again, found new repertoires, found new friends, found new avenues to put their music out. So I think it's a great stomping ground for folk that might never win a gold medal or the Glenfiddich or whatever, but for a lot of music or community stuff especially, I think this year's been pretty strong.
That's a really good observation, and I know that I did for the CPA in Scotland a C grade Pibroch event, and Patricia Henderson and I did it, and we each had half of them, and then we picked 4 each, and then we adjudicated the final 8. But the half that I did, there were people who hadn't competed in years. They really put themselves up in good form and played. It was great. Gary West played in my half. It was absolutely fantastic. So, you know, with every tragedy, if you wish, and what's happened is really a tragedy. There's a positive flip side, but you have to make it positive.
That's right.
You have to flip it around and make it happen.
But if things do sort of go back to the new normal, whatever we're looking at, it's also another tool, isn't it, now, that we could use in conjunction with what we've already got. So if anything, you can use it to make the scene stronger.
Absolutely. And from a band standpoint, it's going to be interesting, because there have been people who've had the pipes in the box for a chunk of time, and more family time, and more hobbies, and maybe more golfing, and more fishing, etc. And now they're going, the pipe major's calling me up and saying we're back at it. And because some of the bands have continued through some Zoom setups, and others have not, and it'll be interesting to see who maybe continues just to take some time away from it, or do they all come back? How much did they miss the camaraderie?
Yeah, I mean, we were chatting about this earlier before we went on air, weren't we? And the thing is that, as we all know, pipe band world, piping is an obsession that we get into. And it's
an illness. It's an illness.
But it's not cheap. It's expensive as well. If you think of people traveling all over the world. So financially, some people are going to go, wow, look at the money I've got in my pocket this year that I didn't have last year. And there's a lot of changes, because if you bring a band over for over for Canada, bringing a band to Canada to the Worlds for a day, it's a lot of money.
Well, and take a look at that kids band from the school in Harare in Zimbabwe that I've been down to work with the last few years.
Yeah,
you know, they had kind of made a commitment to try and get over every second or third year, and you know, they won the novice there a couple of years ago, and they their plan was to be at the Worlds this past August, and it just didn't happen. Just didn't happen for them. And you know, in a kids band like that, you know, you've got the kids, they progress to a certain level and then they graduate and they're gone. So you try and time it so you've got the kids, the senior kids, they haven't graduated yet, you've still got them, and whoosh, you go into a major competition somewhere. Not happening. And some other interesting things. I was chatting with John Wilson a few days ago. Said, you know, when we all get our shots and the competitions, the live contests start again, I said, you know, I'm going to be very reluctant, to fly without a mask from now on. I'll be wearing a mask regardless. And the folks from China were flying into Toronto with masks on before. We used to make fun. You know what? They were doing the right thing. They had it all figured out. So I'll be wearing a mask when I fly, but also be wearing a mask when I judge solo competitions and band competitions. And John said, well, you know, and it might have put us in a position now that we have to almost implement the concert style formation.
Okay. Yeah.
At a safe distance at the tables, like they do in Brittany at the Bagad competitions. So something that many of us have wanted for a long, long time might become a reality out of necessity. And I said, well, that's fine. I'll still be sitting at that table with a mask on.
Remember the year Robert Matheson done the big turnout, didn't he? He turned the band out.
He warned me that they were going to do that. And he only told the band that morning.
Really? Oh.
Yep. Only told them that morning. In fact, I was chatting with him this past week about the masks and everything else. And I said, you know, with your company there, with the kilts and everything else, you've got a great financial opportunity here. pipers are going to have to be out there without a mask playing pipes. I said, but the drum corps can all be wearing masks. And I said, those, you could be selling tartan masks to match the kilt, the tartan you're wearing. And I said, and the judges too. And I said, so I hereby would like to put my order in for 2 masks, one Spirit of Scotland and one his Autumn Storm one that he said, I'm on it.
But I remember Robert Matheson saying at that point in time, the reason he done it was because he felt that, it was entertainment, and I see where he was coming from at the time as well. I can see where he was coming from. Yeah. And everybody went,
that's an interesting point that you mentioned, that COVID might have to force the hand of change and make something that a lot of people have said that they've been wanting for a while. Where do you see the Worralls in 10 years? Because I personally don't think it can be. We can't just keep doing what we're doing, because it's so hard. Like when you look at the amount of Grade 1 bands that dropped out in the last couple of years, I don't think the way that we're doing it's fair. Well, it's not fair, but like for musicians, it's too hard. Like,
it's very hard.
You're a musician and you can still compete at a top level, but I don't think you have to be traveling hundreds of miles every week and be away.
Well, you look at back when I was playing in Grade 1 bands back in the late 1960s and in the 1970s, and that the pipe corps for Grade 1 band was 12.
Yeah.
And I remember I was playing in the City of Toronto pipe band, and the Clan McFarlane came out the next year with 14, and we thought, oh my God, 14, that's huge. You wouldn't be taken seriously today with 14. They're out there with 20 plus. And any less than that, people are going, oh, what's going on? They had to drop a lot of players. Must be something going on, So if you look at the number of players in these bands, if bands had 12 to 14 players, how many Grade 1 bands would we have out there? So there are a lot of factors that have contributed to the bands dropping out. Just they can't support that number of players, whether it's the pipe corps or the drum corps.
I remember Black Bottle competing many years ago with 8 or 9 pipers in Grade 1 right through a whole season.
Mm-hmm.
8 pipers or something like that, and totally reliant on no one taking ill or something, or you're down to 7 players.
Yep, met the rules. It'd be interesting 10 years from now.
Do you think the format might change in 10 years?
I don't know about that, but if the MSR component remains, and I hope it does, something I've been vocal about and I would really like to see happen is much more variety in what's being played. And if you leave the bands alone and not put some restrictions on that, they're going to continue to play Balmoral, Highlanders, and the Highland Wedding, Lord Alexander Kennedy. I've got 6, I call it the top 6 part of tunes. And, I'd like to see them banned for 3 years. No one can play them, compete with them for 3 years. And then the end of the 3 years, you could. But during those 3 years, you have to have alternative tunes to that. And then in the next 3 years after that, you have a smaller number of Strathspeys that are out. And then the next 3 years, you could have a number of reels that they're chucked. And it forced people to dig into an expanding repertoire of music and more contemporary tunes that are fantastic, which I think would be really, really good. Now, there's some bands who've done that and have done it very, very successfully. They've taken the so-called risk, but to which I say, judges view that with a breath of fresh air, when you hear something different like that. So I think I would like to see more variety there. It might have to be mandated for it to happen.
The thing is, the material wise, the variety is there. There's thousands and thousands of boxes.
Absolutely.
So it's not like we have to go away and reinvent the wheel. All the tunes are there anyway. So we just
there's no shortage. There's no shortage of good music out there. Medleys, it'd be interesting to see if that format, the length of time, can you have, would the rules allow bits where the pipers just, as they do in Brittany, chanters all cut out and the drones keep going. And you just orchestrate those kinds of things. Now the way we operate now, our pipers would probably be cutting out, and the drones would double tone, and chanters would be squeaking and popping. And in Brittany, of course, they've got it down to an art form, and the drones are totally stable, and there's not a peep of a chanter, and it's beautiful when it's done. So impact, But I think the concert style formation and maybe an expanded length of time, not the 5 to 7 minutes for the upper elite bands, where they could really do a lot more. Like, I think they've taken the level of orchestration that they have on hand now to as far as it can go.
Yeah.
Given 5 to 7 minutes. You might see more kind of suite type arrangements as opposed to a series of tunes that are woven together with neat transitions and harmonies and all that kind of stuff. It would be good to hear more bands expand into the Pibroch idiom, as Scottish Power did with 2 of their medleys over the last few years, and it had really great impact for the listening audience.
But I think that reflects a little bit back to what you said earlier about a lot of the top pipe majors being top soloists as well. I think that brings a lot to the musical side of the orchestrational side of it, if you like.
And that's what you're hearing today with these top bands. The leadership in the bands are top soloists, or were top soloists when they did the solo competitive thing. So, I feel real positive about it from my standpoint. I can only adjudicate for a few more years, given the rule structure and everything else, and the age limits and all of that. If the BBC continued to cover it, and they still wanted Jackie and myself to be involved, I could just see, 10 years from now, Jackie and Bob coming out with a couple of Zimmers, wheeling us out into this circle.
Yeah, with the masks on.
We've already talked about the coordinated masks.
Yeah.
The masks, Jackie would determine those masks would have to be coordinated. Yeah.
Ross and I will come and help you along and things. Give you a hand.
We'll be your carers for the day. Carers in the community.
That's just because Jackie's there, right?
Yeah. I'll be honest, yeah. So, but interestingly, we talked about what the next 10 years might look like, but for pipe bands, which we don't really get a huge opportunity to speak about in the show, to be honest. What's the next season going to look like? Do you think for so long there's been such a top 6 bands that you can't put that much against? Do you think there might be a top 8 the first year that we get to compete again? Do you think there might be a top 8, a top 10? Might this be the year that the bands actually try harder? Because they know, the bands that aren't in the top 6 might have something up their sleeve. That way where, the way where the American and players come over and play a links course in Britain and can't play.
I know.
Yeah,
it's interesting. See, they just had a major contest in New Zealand because they've got next to no COVID, so they're having in-person solo and band contests. If those New Zealand bands decided to come over, they've been practicing, whereas the others have not. And maybe an expanded top 6 and. What people have said for a number of years, you get 6 or 7 bands that are right up there, and then you can hear that kind of disparity. Last year, I didn't hear quite that drop, that disparity. I thought there's a whole group of them already coming up, and got, this is close, and that could even tighten further.
Yeah,
really tighten further.
Yeah,
very interesting what you're saying about the The New Zealanders are getting a practice season on here.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, it will be interesting.
I found that interesting because you said you've been out working with the band in Zimbabwe as well.
Yes.
How did that come about? It just seems incredible. Fight music.
How did that come about? I've done a lot of work in South Africa over the last few years, and I was judging their contest down outside of Durban and the South Coast Championship. And in the beer tent afterwards. A couple of people came up and spoke with me and explained that one was the drumming instructor, one was the piping instructor, and one was the parents' council liaison or something for the band. And they were down from Zimbabwe to compete. And they said, you've come here a number of years, and we know that you do some work with some other kids' bands back home in Canada. I said, that's true, yes. And would you consider coming to Zimbabwe to work with our kids? And they also wanted the PDQ exams to be administered. And I said, well, of course, they saw me thinking, and I'm going, Zimbabwe, ooh. And my background, I was a geography teacher, and I taught world issues. And anyway, now we know what you're thinking. We could guarantee you'd be safe. You'd be guaranteed safety, when you're with us. And we know you're a retired geography teacher. I think, had I retired at that point, was about to retire. And we have a graduate from the school who owns one of the resorts that overlooks Victoria Falls. So he's agreed he would host you there, and we would ship you up to Victoria Falls after working with the kids for a week and administering the exams. And you'd get to see Victoria Falls. Well, listen, you say that to a geography teacher.
Yeah, sold.
So I had to come home and kind of finesse that one when I got home about the potential Zimbabwe trip. So I think I've been there now 4 times or something, and it's been great fun. And so that's it's been a total treat. Now, it was supposed to go this last April, but of course everything was canceled. So.
Yeah. But it's not just Zimbabwe. You're all over the world doing recitals. You're doing workshops, you're doing all sorts of stuff, and we should have probably touched on this at the start about your competing background, your successful competing background.
Yes,
at the start. It's natural that you've went around the world doing this sort of thing, and it's great to hear all these that you're able to still do a lot online.
You can compete and you can have success as a soloist, but I think for me, the thing that's helped me the most from a teaching standpoint is the fact that for 30 years, I was a professional educator in the school system. And all the training we had there and the education in learning styles, I think it's helped me immensely in teaching either privately or doing a band workshop and trying to put across a whole kind of musical framework for a band in a medley or march Stradivari reel and kind of point them in the right direction, and that so that's helped an awful lot. And also working on our we were the first jurisdiction in Ontario outside of Scotland to bring in ensemble adjudication. So Scotland brought it in, I guess, late 60s thereabouts, and around 1969, 70, I think, might be wrong in the exact year, but we had bands who were going over and they were doing well in piping, doing well in drumming, and down in ensemble. And we have to do something about this. So we were kind of mandated to come up with an ensemble score sheet, and we were going to integrate it in as part of the result. So being there at kind of the ground level as we brought it in here in Ontario, on the first sheet, it was the late Ray Mackay and Ron Rollo and myself put the sheet together at an apartment I was living in Toronto, and I was teaching in Toronto. And I got a bottle of Glenfiddich, and we finished the bottle of Glenfiddich, and we completed our first ensemble score sheet with all the categories and that as we envisioned ensemble. And it changed through time, and we revised the sheet and everything. But I think that has helped me kind of look at bands differently and understand how to maybe give pointers and point the bands in a certain direction in the way they're presenting their music. That's helped immensely. But I can't downplay enough, or shouldn't downplay rather, the fact that being a professional educator is put me in such great standing to be able to be, I think, a decent solo instructor or guide in the side for a pipe band. So it because they're all so different, you know. There's not one kid or adult that I work with that is identical, and you can teach the same way. And the tunes that work for one person go for their hands, yes, but that person that no, not at all.
Yeah.
You know.
It's this is amazing. I could speak to you all night. Do you know that I could speak? We're going to have to get you back on this show again, Bob, because this is just incredible.
We'll play some
one thing I was wanting to mention, your composition as well. You've got 3 books out now. Did I read? Was one of your first tunes called St. Ninians? I dig.
Oh, St. Ninians Parish. Yeah, I wondered you pick up on that.
Yeah, brilliant. It's the name of my house where I am. This is St. Ninians that I'm in just now as well. So it's quite amazing.
Well, I was playing in the General Motors pipe band at the time, and I had 2 parts, but they weren't. Sometimes it's a third part. It was third and fourth parts, and that's the. And then the last. Anyway, all the burls and all that kind of crazy nonsense. But I was listening to the Barra McNeils at a concert out in Antigonish, and it was in the St. Ninians Parish Center where the Cayley was going on. And they started off an instrumental set of jigs. And I went down. Back to the hotel room. I had first part, and that was the first tune I ever wrote. And I think Bog Hall had that an arrangement of it in one of their medleys, and they finished one of their medleys over the last couple of years with the tune, which is really it's great to hear a band at that level.
I heard the lovely 3/4 as well. You had on. Did you have that on just 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe?
That's the latest piece I put together. I don't write like ferociously all the time. It's just if something's kind of in there, and it just needs to get out. My grandfather went over in World War I and from Toronto, and the Canadian military was put in charge of taking Vimy Ridge. The French couldn't take it back. The British couldn't take it back, so they turned it over to the Canadians, and the Canadians put all their divisions, all 3 divisions in, came up with a plan to take it. And on Easter Sunday, they launched the attack. My grandfather was killed in that attack. No one from the family had ever been over. And he's in unmarked graves there, so there's no specific tombstone. But his name's engraved on the monument. And he left behind my father and 4 his sisters and my grandmother. And there's a really tragic kind of family history after that. Without going into those details, but it was one of those things I had to go. So we went just a few years ago and took the pipes, played the Willie Ross tune "Flight of the Eaglets" at the memorial. It's an incredible memorial, and I've always wanted to write a tune for, and there wasn't one out there for Vimy Ridge, probably because the Battle of the Somme and all of these others had Scottish pipers who were in the regiments in those battles. But this one was totally a Canadian venture, the Battle of Vimy Ridge. And this 3/4 came to mind. And so it's remembering Vimy, and I think it's okay,
It's brilliant. I loved it. I love it. I love 3/4s and 9/8 and playing them in the accordion, and you don't get much chance to because they don't fit for any Cayley dances over a 3/4 march or a 9/8. So you are playing them for people to listen to.
Yeah, you can't
so I make a point of doing it so that they'll just have to listen sometimes. It's great. It's good.
Yeah, when just between dances,
Yeah. But really, really, really nice. And so, can I just ask very quickly before we have to move on? But what catches your ear as a good tune?
Oh, melody.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff out there it's all rhythmic and everything else, and some of those tunes are very effective, for a pipe pen medley starters and all of that. But you wouldn't really play it on your own. And was it Duncan Johnson said at one point in time when I asked him about the same thing, he said, "Oh, I'm always thinking about tunes," and he said, I'll scratch something down when I'm having my morning cup of tea. He says, and then I go to the shower, and if I can't remember and sing that piece that I was just scratching, I come back and I rip it up and I throw it away. But for me, with our crazy little restricted scale of 9 notes, it's like using that ascending and descending melody lines for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look at the tunes that have stuck with me all these years, great G.S. McLennan tunes or John McCall tunes or Donald McLeod tunes, and the great ones all go up and all go down.
Yeah.
Dream Valley, up it goes, down, so using that range, that's what captures me.
I really notice that now when I'm using Sibelius to write music out, and even when you're just writing it out, you notice how certain tunes, you just see it. You see the pattern, they go up and down, and you're having to shift octaves and things. And you see it. It's really, really brilliant. Ross, have you got anything else that you're wanting to quickly ask Bob before we have to let this?
I think Bob's answered everything. I think you've been great, Bob. Absolutely fantastic.
It's been one of the most interesting nights I've had in many, many years. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. And Ross, your tune. It's a smashing little tune. Really is. Really. Structure's lovely. It's very melodic. And your grips were just cracking there. And
it was a cold day.
He'll put your crit sheet in the post.
Thank you, Bob. That was lovely to have you on. Thank you very much.
Well, have a fantastic Christmas, New Year. Hope we see you in Scotland. If you've not made it up to Shetland yet, you've got somewhere to stay now when you come to Shetland.
I got a favorite author who writes about that. I'll be there.
Sounds good. You're most welcome, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob. Take care. Excellent. Thank you.
Bye, Bob.
Wow. Fantastic. It's just like, that's great. Just meeting somebody as famous as Bob was.
For those that don't know, but if that didn't clear it up, Bob, long-time service award at the pipe band competitions at the Worralls, huge. It's hard to take Bob seriously there because he doesn't look as old as he actually is. He was at a huge level decades and decades ago. So he's looking so great and at the absolute top of his game. So
and he's complimented your tune. So there you go.
Yeah, well, that's a real compliment. Eh?
That's lovely, really nice, really nice.
Really good.
I was going to play another wee tune or have another tune, but listen, we're pushing through time here, and we've got another phenomenal guest coming on.
Who's this one then?
I've never heard of Mr. Bruce MacGregor. Are you with us, Bruce? Hello.
I am indeed. That was fascinating.
How are you doing?
I'm great. I've just finished teaching and then managed to catch the last bit of that with Bob, and it sounds great.
It was great.
Great. Really good.
Just hearing the whole thing when a piper for Canada and growing up in Canada, but winning every major Scottish thing that's moved, and just it's back to that old thing. I'm sure you've seen it yourself when you've been over in Canada, and that they're nearly more Scottish than us sometimes.
I love going to Canada. In fact, I'm trying to trace if I've got Canadian roots because, well, I don't want to ruin the show by mentioning Brexit, but if things keep going the way they are, I might go to Canada fairly sharpish.
I heard Tim Eadie saying the same thing last night. Nova Scotia, Beacon. Gee whiz. Yeah. Well, we could all just go in a plane load, couldn't we? A plane load all in a winner. Just head out.
Yeah, it's kind of.
How are you? How are you getting on? Are you doing fine?
Good. just been, I mean, we've been lucky here in Tier 1 in Inverness. Our bar has been open from, August actually, is all the way through the holidays there. And then even when things shut down, we had an outdoor area, so we were able to, keep people in food and drink, and that was grand. We're allowed background music again, so that has made a big difference. Just going into this afternoon and hearing some good tunes in the background, you think, God, that makes such a difference when you walk into a bar.
Right, yeah.
And we've had a couple of gigs as well.
You've been in a strange situation. I was thinking about it earlier yourself. COVID has nearly affected just about every business angle you're involved with.
It has. I always thought, I'm fairly lucky. I mean, a fairly diverse career here. Music or the bar or the weddings and stuff like that. That we've got a wedding venue as well.
Yeah.
Fairly safe. No, I was not. I did not foresee this, and neither did you.
But I must compliment you on the bar. You've been very innovative and kept going and trying to look for new ways to make that work and keep it there. And people are seeing that and appreciating that.
Yeah, it's been a challenge. We've got a great wee team of people, and I think the fact we live quite close to it. But the fact is, we were so passionate about it to get it going. I remember just when lockdown happened, and we had a couple of sessions in there just before, great music sessions. And I remember going in a couple of weeks afterwards and looking at it and, nearly bursting into tears, to be quite honest, just thinking we have worked so hard to get it to this stage and it's gone. It's nearly gone. And, and I thought, no, we'll find ways. My wife is, we've both got production skills. Both had worked in the BBC. So we started work and doing, the kind of online show, which Live at 5, which has been great fun. And
that's great too.
Yeah, it was loads of merchandise stuff, which, although there's not much to be made out of it, it was actually getting the brand name out there over in America, all over the world, actually. So those things really helped us and just kept us going. You had a reason to get up, which was, yeah.
Well, I started doing my playing every day thing when it locked down and put a wee video out every day, and I done 150 of them in the end or something. But it was the same thing. It made me get up in the morning, made me go and do things. Because for that first little while, even though I'm teaching in schools all the time, the schools just didn't know what to do to begin with. It took quite a few weeks to pull it all together and get it sussed in. And but then after that, it's been pretty good. We've been teaching. We're the same. We're level 1 up here in Shetland as well. So it's been kind of blended learning, a mixture of both kind of style things. So. Mm-hmm. So thank goodness for technology and that we've had it, because
it forced us to use it. I mean, it's forced us to learn about it as well, because I must admit I'm a bit of a technophobe. I'm not that interested in that kind of stuff, but I am now quite adept at making little adverts and just being able to link up with most of these things just because we've had to. So no bad thing. And I've been watching some of the young players like Ali Levac, the Piper whistle player. Yeah. He's now learned to put these videos together. I don't know if you saw his video that he did recently for a new tune that he's written. And it's all old archive footage that he's put together. It's absolutely brilliant.
So there is new stuff coming out because of this. And we were... it's amazing what people have been doing, actually. Yeah. And I watched Martin Gillespie, the Scary Boys, and that. They've been bringing stuff out all the time, and it's great. Yeah. Everybody. And then Blazing Widows.
That's interesting what you're saying about like we've been forced to. You're a bit of a technophobe, you admitted there. I definitely am. But I've been able to still teach through the school that I teach at, and like what Peter said, it gives you, like, you're up in the morning, you're up. Put your tie on, as you do, and then you're teaching. So it's been fine. I've not really noticed, apart from the reduction on the job that you're doing. I'm still up every day, and I've still got a bit of a routine. So so music's still there, at that. But I was never on stage like yourself, Bruce. But the way I play music still, it never really changed me. But it's quite interesting to think that so many people that have become bored or not been able to do stuff, that have went back to their hobby or music hadn't played for 10 years, I think they'll keep that going, because it's very easy now to say, I'll keep that lesson going, or I'll keep that I'm quite interested in that again. I don't have to move from my house. I don't have to get an instructor.
Completely.
So I think it's been a tough year for musicians, but I think the way we've all had to jump into this has had a lasting thing that will benefit the distant learning or music or.
Yeah, well, I've just done a class there with about 15 folk from across the United States, organised by Ed Perlman there. I've never met any of them before, and we're having this Zoom class. We did the whole of Blazon and Bewley, which is the fiddle music school we run in October every year. We had 120 people doing the classes every night. So we had a couple of people doing the classes, and then there was these video bundles that we sent out to people. So although you didn't have the camaraderie or the laughs or anything like that, we still felt that we were all there kind of together. We had a session with 120 people at the end of it as well, so it's quite incredible what it's managed to do.
Yeah. Where is it Ed is? He's in
Maine.
Maine.
Yeah.
And he plays a lot of the Cape Breton stuff and things as well.
Yeah, he was in charge of the Boston Fiddle Club for a few years, I think. Up there.
Did we have Ed on as a guest when we done the Canadian show through Cape Breton?
Yeah.
We did. Yeah. That's where it is. It's when you said the name, and I was thinking, wait a minute. Yeah, because he was into Baroque music as well, wasn't he?
Yeah. No, I've known him for years. I used to go out to teach at there was a Scottish school out in Ohio, and Ed kind of organised the fiddle side of things, and spent 5 years on the trot to teach it. It was amazing.
Right. Can I ask you? Obviously, you were one of the founder members of Blazon Fiddles, because we were talking about MacGregor's bars there, folks. The bar is in Inverness. Go along and support MacGregor's bars whenever you can. We get about 10,000 viewers a week. So if you please don't all go at once, if you could stagger it, that would be nice for Bruce and his staff. But you were one of the founding member, were you? Of Blazon Fiddles. Did you play with bands before that? Or?
I played in a band. I don't know what it was really. I played in the Highlands Thespian Real Society when I was younger. Okay. Donald Riddle was the teacher. Donald taught Duncan Chisholm, Ian McFarlane, Gregor Borland, Adam Sutherland, Sarah Jane Summers. Taught all of us. I mean, and there was many other great players before us that he taught. And I don't suppose the route to playing on stage was really there at that stage. But I remember getting kind of inspired when I saw Duncan playing with Wolfstone, and I was at university at the time, and I went, wait a minute, how's he in a band? That looks great fun. And kind of thought, I'll see what we can do. And then I was actually busking on the high street in Inverness when I was home as a student. And on the other side of the road was a guitarist who I didn't really know that well. He was in school the year beneath me, Mark Clement, who's in 29 now. So we started chatting and started playing together, and then it was like within a couple of months we'd formed a band called Eat the Donkey. I
remember.
Yeah, quite a laugh with Colin Marua in on banjo, but it was really quite bizarre, the busking thing and him being across the road, and that was us just getting started. And then he was the first guy I asked about Blazon Fiddles. I wanted him to come in on guitar. And then the idea was, what happened with Blazon Fiddles was I had a bit of a chip in my shoulder, to be quite honest. While I was working for BBC Radio Scotland as a researcher, I was listening to the output, and honest to God, all the music was either Irish, Cape Breton, or country music. And I was going, where is the Scottish music on this? Apart from Travelling Folk and the set programme, there was stuff during the day. But even some of the, even Travelling Folk at that time, I remember listening to it going, there's hardly a Scottish fiddle player on this. What happened here? And I know Cape Breton music was huge. The Ashley McIsaac and what's her name? McMaster. When they came over here, they kind of exploded on the scene. They were getting really big news. And I remember going over to Alistair Fraser's school to do a radio program actually in California. And I was interviewing lots of the participants there to find out why they were all coming to learn Scottish music in the Californian redwoods. And I remember one or two of them saying, "Oh yeah, Scottish fiddle music's dead though, isn't it? I mean, there's no young Scottish fiddle players." I was going, you haven't heard of Duncan Chisholm. You don't know Ian McFarlane or Alan Henderson. They're going, no. Then I realised that, as usual with Scotland, we're particularly crap at actually promoting ourselves and telling the rest of the world that we've got good music. And that came back with that kind of in my head, thinking, we've got to do something to get these young players on the stage. And that was kind of bulk of why I was doing it. And then I went to Alistair, who was in charge of the Highland Festival, and just said, I've got this idea about putting together a showcase of Highlands and Islands fiddle styles, because I'm worried that the styles aren't really being celebrated. Nobody knows. A lot of people have got into this idea of a Celtic fiddle sound. It'd be really good if people could hear the Shetland sound and could hear guys from the West Coast and find out those differences. So it was only meant to be a showcase. It was never meant to be a full band or anything, but we had such a good laugh that we did it again. And then within a year, without making a CD or anything like that, we'd been booked for the main stage at Cambridge Folk Festival. And, it was just it snowballed so quickly. It was incredible.
And not stopped either. Not stopped since either, has it?
No. It has been amazing. I mean, there was points where I kind of thought, oh, that's it. We had a kind of natural transition, kind of Aidan and Katrina and Duncan Chisholm all kind of left at various points. But, it was such a big band that actually made it a lot easier. But then when Ian and Alan decided to leave, they were actually going to work offshore. I think was going to be their plan, actually. But they've gone off to do great musical things since. At that point, I really thought, oh, that's it. We've done 10, 12, whatever years it was. But Anna and Jenna and Angus said, this is crazy. We've worked so hard to get the name out there. The music's, still there. We're still playing Scottish music, and that's what we're trying to sell to the world. Why don't we just get some younger folk in? And we got Rudy McMillan and Kristen Harvey, Orkney, and Rudy. I actually taught Rudy when he was a kid. So.
Rudy, after yourself tonight, Rudy's the only one we have to get in the show, and we've got the present line. Oh, and Anna. We need to get Anna and Rudy, and we've got the whole lot of yous.
Yeah.
Kirsten on, we've had Gemma on, and we had Angus on a long time ago, because I've known Angus for years, so that's way back. But have you got the fiddle? You don't fancy giving us a wee tune on this fiddle when we're talking about other Scottish music? Folks out there, if you've got any questions, mind them, put them up on the screen, and we'll let Ross sit down for a minute. I'm a bit worried about Ross. He's just had a hernia operation, so he insists on standing for the whole show. I think we'll go and lie down for a minute while Bruce is playing a tune.
Have you seen it?
Crash. Wow. What are you for, Bruce?
I'll try. These are brand new reels, actually. I've been doing a new album with Angus and Anna, actually, down at Angus's studio I started it in about February last year, and then it's taken a rather long time to get anything else done. Oh. So these are 4 reels. The first written for my wife's wee boy, Josh, who is 13 and has the ability to, whenever you ask him to do anything, he doesn't move very fast a lot of the time, and if you ask him to do something, it's like, aye, 2 seconds, 2 secs, 2 secs. And that 2 secs could mean 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks before it's actually done. So I wrote him a wee tune. The second one is written for my wife, Jo De Silva, A Force of Nature. The third one is called Short and Simple, which I wrote for myself. And the last one is called Roddy MacGregor, who's my son.
Oh, yeah, excellent.
Very, very good.
Cracking tunes, man. Brilliant. So is this a solo
Yes,
album?
yeah, it's kind of cool. I did that book. It came out in January, which was a lot of about 50 tunes that I'd written and stories from over the years with Blazing Fiddles and just stories about going to Donald Riddle and just kind of like a biography, but only the interesting stuff put in it and with the tunes and
where can folk get that? Where can folk get it?
it's on my website, which is what was that again? Bruce MacGregor. Yeah,
Hopefully that's in the screen now.
that looks about it.
There you go. How's that?
Yeah, and the Patreon page as well. So I've been selling it on that as well. So I've been doing, just been collecting. I mean, I'm not a prolific writer at all. Lucky if it's. I mean, I'll go through phases where maybe 4 or 5 tunes will come in the space of 2 or 3 weeks, and then nothing for 7 months. And I think it really depends on kind of work I'm doing and if I've got the right headspace to actually, like 3 of those reels were actually written when I was in, where was I? I was in France for 3 weeks during the summer. My wife's got a house over there, an old farmhouse that we're doing up. So went over there and started work on it and just found I was in a completely different headspace. And then all of a sudden the tunes kind of came, and it was it is having the space to think about.
Well, there you go, folks. If you fancy Bruce's book, and I'm looking forward to the album coming out as well. That's getting recorded at Grand's house. Is that right? Grand's house?
It is indeed. I've got Anna Massey on guitar. I've got Angus doing a bit of accordion, and then Ian Sandilands hopefully coming in to do some percussion. Jenna's written some string parts for some of the pieces as well. So it's a bit of a Blazing Fiddles collaboration.
Brilliant. Well, Grand's house studios is about 5 miles from my mum's house.
Is it?
Yeah, that's where I was brought up, down in that area of the country. So
Yeah, no,
so I used to fish the Clyde in front of Grant's House Studios for brown trout. So there we go. And of course, I was brought up in a rugby area because bigger rugby club and all that. Now you have always been into rugby, and I knew Ross was going to ask you about some rugby.
yes.
Obviously, bigger not being better, but
Thanks.
there's actually two things I wanted to ask you. My light keeps flicking on tonight. One's going to be about rugby, but I want, while we're on music, before we go off that, in your bio that you sent, and you mentioned this about fiddle music, but I think it covers all traditional instruments. But you said that the essence of music lies in its ability to keep its heart while still being adventurous. Is there any like new bands that stand out, or bands that you listened to when you were a wee boy that really stood out that gave that sentiment or portrayed that sentiment?
Yeah, completely. I mean, when I first heard the Battlefield Band with it was Home is Where the Van Is.
Wow.
That album just blew me away. I'd never really heard folk music before then. It was all Strictly and Real Society stuff, and that album blew me away. Brian McNeil's Unstrung Hero was another album, and then I heard Silly Wizard live in America, and that was life. Yeah. Those albums were just incredible. And now, there are so many albums coming out I find it really difficult actually to keep on top of all the albums that are coming out that are sent to me at the BBC. And thankfully, there's a team of us listening to it. But I love Dallahan. Just an absolutely fantastic guy's voice, great musicians within the band as well. So big fans of them. There's just so many. I mean, Ali Levac's new album that came out last year, I thought that was one of the freshest things I'd heard in quite some time. And some of the tunes as well, they weren't particularly flashy. They were, they felt really like they could have been written hundreds of years ago. But the production around the whole thing made them just sound really meaty, and I thought it was a really, really good album.
Because you've been doing travel and folk now, presenter for 11 years, is it? It must be now, anyway.
I can't remember. I honestly can't remember when I was doing it. Yeah, it's
over a decade.
Yeah. No, I was just overjoyed to be asked to do that program. I'd done a little bit of Take the Floor, but I had to be honest and say, well, that's not my forte. It's, I didn't feel particularly comfortable doing it, just because I knew there's a lot of people who knew an awful lot more about the dances and the music that go with the dances than me. Whereas the folk stuff I felt very comfortable with, whether it be the songs or the tunes or anything. So, when I was offered the job, I just, it was just.
But actually, you done quite well for me one night, because you came up here and presented Take the Floor live from Lerwick one night. And I was leader of the Fustra at the time, did the Fustra dance run, and we done a show, and I remember you coming up and you were emceeing that night.
Yeah, and I bet it's funny, the first one I ever did live, or one of the outside broadcasts I did live, was in Stirling, and the audience hadn't been told that Robbie Shepherd wasn't doing it. And I honestly walked on to just absolute disgust and disappointment in people's faces when they were told that this was a presenter. It was like, here's Robbie. Where's it?
But no, I remember that.
Do you not even try the accent? Do you not even?
No. But no, it was funny. I mean, the thing is that, I mean, my day will be up with travelling folk at some stage, and somebody will take it on, and hopefully these programs stay on Radio Scotland. They're so important. But I've really enjoyed it more for the fact that it keeps me up to date with what's happening with all the music that's coming out. And I've had the chance to interview some of my absolute heroes and sit down with them for a long period of time and get to chat to them. And the program that just went out there on Thursday was a 2-hour special with Barbara Dixon. Yeah. And she was incredible. I mean, it was only meant to be a 30-minute interview, and it ended up being the complete 2 hours with her. Her story is incredible, and she's such a wonderful person to interview.
Absolutely, and amazing. She started out in folk bands and things as well, didn't she?
All her interesting stuff. She started in the late '60s, and she was there at all the sessions with, whether it be Hamish Henderson, Ali Bain. Then she started, Billy Connolly and the Humble Bums and all her stories with them. And she's come back to it, but she knows all her child murder ballads or any of the you just ask her for a song and she's able to do it. She's really, really good.
And it's a great show. You've got, I think for years, I used to work offshore, and every time I came home, I used to be able to listen to the 3 or 4 weeks playback. I used to be away for 3 weeks, home for 3 weeks. So I'd always come back and listen to the 3 weeks, and then through the day have the playback day.
Yeah.
It was great. And I know that I'm a good friend of Gary West, actually. But my favourite is Travelling Folk. Don't tell him. That's our little secret. Don't tell Gary West. All right.
Wonderful. We've got Gary coming on sometime.
I'm saying that as a joke because all 3 of the shows are fantastic. Travelling Folk, Take the Floor, and Pipeline are fantastic floors that have got great playbacks and guests, and
we're very fortunate to have them.
And
we're having great fun here interviewing the presenters of BBC Radio Scotland. We've got Gary now, we've got Bruce, and we have got Gary. I've got him in the diary, so it's going to be good. It's brilliant. So, Ross, go and ask him your other question.
I've just got my light to work again. No, there's one that wasn't. There was one. I'm a rugby player as well, or used to be before I got injured. So I'd love to hear, because there's always a story, and you'll be lying if you. I'll appreciate if you can't tell it on air. What is the weirdest rugby tradition that you've ever come across? Because you've played at a high level and you've toured across the country. You've seen a lot of different rugby teams in their own space. There's bound to be a rugby tradition there that there's probably
there's a lot. I was just saying some of the French ones were absolutely. We went over to France a couple of times and played and I think not actually understanding what was happening a lot of the time kind of threw me. I played in Canada actually. It was actually in Toronto, Scottish. I went over there for the summer to play, which I really, really enjoyed. But yeah, some of the traditions that I've seen. I mean, I've got to say, it's got to be the RAF guys. The RAF guys are just horrific. Lossy mouth like that. It was. I really can't go into it, but it was.
Are we talking worse than the musicians' football game at Orkney Folk Festival? Here?
Much worse. No. It was. But I really enjoyed my time playing rugby. Just absolutely, I got totally obsessed by it. The fiddle kind of went under the bed for a few years, and when I was at university there, and I got to a certain kind of level. My claim to fame that I was in the same squad as Doddy Weir and Andy Nichol was in it, and there was a really good Scottish student squad, and we did all right in a couple of the games. And I remember going over to France actually to play, and Rowan Shepherd was at full back, and I'd known him from up in Caithness, and there must have been about 7 or 8 guys in that squad who went on to play for Scotland, and we got beaten 63 points to 6. And I think that was in the days when you only got 4 points for a try. It was an annihilation. It was horrible. I remember actually, I realised that playing against the English universities, and I looked at my opposite man, and he must have been 5 stone heavier than me. Funnily enough, I could never get over 12 stone when I was playing rugby when I was at 12, 13 stone at a push. Now I dream of that weight. I remember looking at this guy, and he must have been 17, 18 stone. I just went, I can't compete with that. It was just, he nearly killed me. And I kind of realised I wasn't really going to make it any further than that. But I really enjoyed it, and I've been watching. I got involved in coaching here at Highland a few years ago. Highland had hit really hard times up here, and a few of the ex-players came together and said, well, let's try and help coach. And I was involved in the first 3 years of that as we came up through the leagues. but it was becoming so time consuming. It was unbelievable. You know, it went from, going down on a Tuesday and a Thursday and a Saturday to Sunday meetings for to decide on the team, which would last for 4 hours, squad selection things. And then you were watching videos, and then it was, it just got too much. So I had to bow out. But I do watch, I watched the games against Biggar. We've had some real battles with them this last 2 seasons. And I think actually the SRU have made a complete mess of not allowing Biggar to be promoted after they comfortably won the league, totally unfairly. They should have gone up. But.
Well, on another sporting, your son now, Roddy, he's doing really well with Inverness Cali as well, just now as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's been there since he started off playing rugby. He didn't have much option. I took him down there. But
you want one of these when you're not playing football, son. Come on.
No, I'm a big football fan as well. I love sport, actually. So I got him involved in the rugby, and he started playing. His cousin, actually, his elder cousin, played for Cali Youths, and he kind of got him into it. He started off at Ross County, actually, doing their micro football thing. And he just practiced and practiced. He was just never stopped playing football. He was outside, and he just seemed to have the energy, constant energy of wanting to play, wanting to practice, and just wore me out completely, actually. And then there was a good squad of boys. I think 10 of them were actually signed from the under-18s onto a professional contract for a year. Unfortunately, I think probably only 3 or 4 of them have been kept on. 4, maybe 5 now, actually, have been kept on. And I think that's actually down to finances more than anything else. But Roddy and Cameron Harper have been in the first team since the beginning of the season. And I think it's a breath of fresh air. They play with a kind of enthusiasm and sense of adventure that you don't get from some of the older guys, because they haven't made the mistakes yet. So they're willing to kind of go for it.
Well, when you're talking about Biggar not going up, and my team Hearts went down because of COVID, and we've ended up in the same league as Inverness Cali now. So if you could ask Roddy just not to try too hard when he's playing the Jambos, that would be good.
Well, I was watching the game against Queen of the South. He scored one of the best goals I've seen him score in any part. But he couldn't have timed it any better, because it happened to be on BBC TV. So yeah, it was good. But I enjoy it. I get it's always a very scary thing watching your son going on a professional pitch like that, because especially when you're down at the stadium there, people are background there. But then they're quite supportive of young local talent, which is quite good. I'm just sitting there going, oh God, I hope he doesn't do anything wrong.
Brilliant, it's great. And then Blazing and Bewley, you went virtual this year?
We did. That was great. And we're going to do it again in January, actually. Blazoom, as it is now known as. And we're doing it as part of Celtic Connections as well. So a weeks-long teaching thing, plus a concert at the end of it.
Where can people find out about that? Is it Blazing Fiddle's website, is it?
Yeah, the website, and probably best the Facebook site, to be quite honest, is where we keep that kind of stuff up to date.
That's been a huge success.
Oh, it has. That game started off because I'd been to loads of fiddle camps around the world, and I kind of thought loads of them had loads of good things, and then there was little things that I thought, there's some places that you're asked to teach from 9 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, and you're getting people who it's their 4th choice instrument, and you're going, they don't really want to be in this class at 4 o'clock. I'm just looking after your kid. This is so we kind of try to work out what is good for the tutors and what gets maximum concentration from the participants, and giving participants a bit more than just the music but the history. So we've done walking tours around the Bewley and Inverness area. We've done guided bus trips. We've gone to the distillery. We've been all over the place and trying to get
the distillery for the parents.
Definitely. So we've done all those kind of things. We had silly sketch shows. We've had great guests over the years, and it's totally self-sufficient as well. We started off with Creative Scotland helped us out, but I forgot to fill the form in 1 year, so we became self-sufficient. That was it.
Fantastic, though. That's great. If that's working, that's marvellous.
Yeah, and we've had some people. This would have been our 21st year, I think it was going to be.
I see these things like a run in the morning and things. Is there one day you do a run or something like that?
Yes, Angus decided to start doing a fun run.
He would.
Rudy took the car up to part of the halfway up the hill to offer them a dram halfway up it. So that was Rudy's part to help out there.
I think I'd do the same. I'd be in Rudy's car. Angus told me one day as well, he jumped on his bike or something and started cycling and nearly got to Edinburgh. You know, he went for miles and miles and miles, then realised he couldn't get home and phoned his mum to come and pick him up. She had to drive 35 miles to go and pick him up or something like that. It was what a guy.
No, it's been great, and you know, I think for us, we've learned a lot about it as well from a band running your own affairs, you know, because we'd run everything, the record label, the music school, everything is kind of done within the band, and it's all designated. Everybody kind of looks after something, and it actually makes for a great team spirit. You know, everybody knows that everybody will look after their bit of the vision.
And it's Bewley, but it's open. The door's open wider than Bewley, obviously.
Oh yeah. We've had people from Australia, Japan, New Zealand, Canada, America, all come over for it, and all over Scotland and England as well. It really has been amazing. I remember the first. We had two things that stick out in my mind. One was an Australian girl who had never seen snow before, and it started snowing in the middle of October, so that was quite good. And the second was we had a guy from Galicia, and he just didn't speak any English, but he filmed absolutely everything. Just filmed everything. And I met him years later, and he had this amazing archive stuff from the first. It was the very first year. So that was good. We just called him Manuel, though. Nobody actually found out what his name was. He just walked him out with.
Well, one of our friends here, Gareth Nodes of the show, has just put on, do you know any tunes that never fail to get your kids to sleep? And can you play it now? Aha!
Interestingly enough, Gareth Nodes used to play for Highland. He was from there. Yeah, he used to play for Highland.
Oh, good. That's good.
Yeah.
Is there any? Sorry.
Sorry, I was going to mention there about the Patreon page as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, that was a new thing as well to me. My wife actually plays a little bit harp, has been learning the harp, and she said she said this about 3 years ago to me. She said, you should get on this Patreon thing. It's really good. I pay £5 a month or something, and I can go in and learn a tune whenever I want because it's all filed there. I was going, oh yeah, fine. Then eventually, with COVID, I went, okay, where's the button? How do I do it? And so it's kind of split up into different levels. So you can come in as just a general supporter where I'll put up news and music and bits and pieces here and there. Then there's another level which is teaching tunes from the Highlanders Revenge book. Then there's another level which you get the other two, plus you get any Scottish classic session tunes and things like that. And then there's another level which is the one-to-ones, but I've limited that to just a handful, just time-wise and things. Right. So it's a really great. I mean, I probably could make far more of it and learn far more about it, but it's just the time actually at the moment. So it's well worth it. I know a few people have been doing it for lessons and for it's a thing that a lot of bands in America use.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, and writers actually. I think just writers. It's basically if people want to support the arts and artists, that's the way they can do it.
So when are you expecting the solo album to be out?
I was actually, it's one of my lists. One of my things to do on my list tomorrow is contact Angus and get dates for getting in January to finish stuff off. So in
the fairly near future. Though.
Yeah. Half of it's recorded. The fiddle and guitar parts are recorded. We've got seven tracks done, I think it is. So,
is there any new Blazers stuff on the go? Or?
We actually, when we were on tour in when was it? February. we actually worked and got 4 new sets up, and they're actually in the Celtic Connections filming that we did. It's going out in January. We did a wee film for Celtic Connections. So yeah, there's some 4 new sets on that. We had another 7 that needed more work on them, and then that was it. COVID hit. That was the end of it. But we hopefully will have. We were thinking about. Actually, this is a thing that came up a lot in the discussion. We're going more and more bands aren't doing albums; they're doing EPs. It keeps them relevant for longer. And they're, so you get 4 tracks here, another 4 tracks. Nobody really buys an album unless you're on tour. So it keeps everybody fresh. And going, do we have to release a single? Is that what you're doing? So it's just what keeps you kind of relevant, I suppose, and the fact that on people's radar, because you can disappear very quickly.
I think Tim Eadie had on the other night that he's just released a single. Did he not? Yeah. So maybe that's what we're all needing to do.
Yeah. Are you excited to think about when bands are allowed to go back out again, or are you excited about maybe a change in what the sound might be, or the volume of music that comes out, or a slight difference? Do you think there'll be something that do you think there'll be a dip or a spike in something that you'll recognise back to this year in music?
And what we've been doing. Yeah, I see what you mean. That's an interesting thing. I'm not entirely sure. I think what we'll get when we get back is a huge burst of energy from not only from the people in the gigs, but the bands themselves. We were that Celtic Connections gig. We only played for half an hour. We were absolutely exhausted. You kind of forget the muscle memory. Not playing 245s, it's just gone, and you're trying to remember. Your mind wanders. Maybe that's just the age I'm hitting. Actually,
I think it's going to test a lot of players to go back to doing it. To be honest, it's going to be, and it was interesting having Bob Worrall on there earlier talking about the big pipe bands and things, and these guys all finding they've had this time in their hands this year. He said, and they've went fishing and went golfing and family time. And wait a minute, am I needing to be so obsessive about this bagpipes anymore? Kind of stuff,
I think that's definitely going to be the case, and a lot of people. I saw a lot of musicians during lockdown saying, "Maybe this isn't, the way I should be living my life. Maybe I should be going and doing something else." And I was thinking myself, I thought, "Is it really?"
I know, but is there also that other side of the coin where, as soon as you get that time back, because Bob had the exact right word for it. It's an infection. Music's an infection. Something will happen this year, which is going to make next year better, where there's maybe a bigger stream of people able to come through the internet to lessons to people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are saying, how can so many people come out of the conservatoire and get jobs, or bands, or how can it be? But yeah, this is exactly how it's going to work, because the whole world's linked in the internet. The whole world now knows how to listen to bands, or to be linked to bands, or to have shows like this, or they can speak. They can have folk that aren't grade 1 or prize winning folk still have a drive the same.
Yeah, well, I've noticed that in the pub. The guys who played Davy Holt, a really fine folk singer, lives in Inverness now. And Shahalian, it's a duo that play in a lot of the pubs around Inverness. They've started doing these shows, and they're getting, it was a kind of tip jar kind of thing, and they were getting far more than they were actually getting from playing in the pub. And they were having to deal with drunk people. But they couldn't wait. I mean, we started a show. We had a couple of shows in the pub where it was ticketed, and the smile on Davy Holt's face the first night he played was just unbelievable. It was getting. I think the thing was, it was getting people singing along with him.
Yeah,
and you really miss that. And it's the community of people enjoying the music and bringing them together. Brilliant online, because it satisfies a need, because people can't get to you. But the real thing is in the room and feeling the magic.
Yeah, I think the first socially distanced gig that's been since March in Shetland was the other day in Mareel. It was Ross Cooper and his brother Ryan. They've done an album in lockdown, and that was the first one. I think there was only 50 people at it or something, but they said they were just delighted to be there again. They were just delighted to be on stage. You know?
I remember the first thing I played, and it was probably the end of July, maybe start of August. I played at a wedding in Auchterarder, and it was tiny, up a wee place. And I remember how good that felt.
Yeah.
You know, just to go out and just play for people. You know, so I think when the
Tell you what,
I think when allowed to be a lot, everybody will be dying to play for people again, and I hope the audience is dying to listen to again. I think that I don't doubt that will be the case. I think folk will be. I think for musicians, it's been harder for us because it's more obvious for us that we've not had an audience. But I think the audience starts to remember. Oh, I remember how good that is. I think it'll jump back to that pretty quick again.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's howling a gale outside here tonight, so you wouldn't want to be out playing at a wedding tonight, that's for sure. That's for sure. And then you've got Bogbain, the wedding venue as well.
That every wedding. Well, actually, Rory McMillan got married up there. There was 18 people at it. That was the amount we were allowed.
18, did you say?
18, 1-8. So it's pretty bizarre. But they're going to have the part. Everything that was in this year, we've just moved straight on to next year. But it means that now 2022 is nearly full, and 2023 has got bookings. It's.
I'm having the same problem with the band, and people that are trying to reschedule, but we were already booked possibly for that already, and it's going to be a bit difficult for that kind of thing. So.
Right.
Have you got another tune up your sleeve? You could give us a quick tune before you go. Unless you're needing to get to your bed.
No, I'm all right. I'm all right. I've just heard Josh going up the stairs, so he must be on his way to bed just now. So this is a wee waltz called Annie's Waltz.
Is that in the book? Is this in the book?
It is in the book, yes. Written for an old lady who used to come to Blazing Fiddles gigs. She sadly passed away last year, but she used to come with her whole family, actually. She was a big Blazing Fiddles fan. And her daughter asked me to write a tune for her birthday. And she came along to the gig and she said it was all right. So.
I tell you what, I have never ever been disappointed at a Blazing Fiddles gig, so I can assure you that.
Me either.
Yeah. Take it away, Bruce.
Okay.
Lovely.
Fantastic.
I think I've played that tune already. Did somebody record that for Tunes in the House?
I don't know.
I think they maybe did. And I remember playing piano or second accordion. I remember the tune. As soon as you started it there, I was like, wait a minute. I think that's what it was.
Yeah. No,
If I find the video, I will send you it.
that'd be great. Actually, I know Brian Gear was talking about playing it. Actually,
I think it was a lady with an accordion that played it.
Oh, right.
But I'll find out for you. And I'm sure there was a debate about where's that tune come from? And somebody said, oh, wait a minute, it was Bruce MacGregor that wrote that. So that's where it made me think of it again. So wonderful, lovely tune. Bonnie, love the second measure in that. Really, really nice.
Oh, there's some really nice chords Anna and Angus have got behind it. It's kind of slightly country-esque, which is another one of my big loves, bit of country music.
Well, you do in Shetland, country music is quite big up here over the years as well.
I know. It was Sheila Henderson I saw up there years ago.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But in fact, we got them down, the whole band down to play at the farm one year for one of the festivals we ran. They were magic.
Sheila's still singing, her daughter sings now as well. She's
right.
her daughter as well. So, but so it's but there used to be a country club up here in Shetland at one point. There was an actual building, the country club. All the acts used to come up.
Brilliant.
So,
well, I love getting up to Shetland. It's just we were up for the festival a wee while ago. I've got great friends up there, Peter and Caroline Mackenzie.
Mackenzie over at Scalloway. Yeah. I still see Peter every so often. He's great. Caroline's wonderful. She used to work BBC all the time as well, didn't she, Caroline?
Yeah. She does indeed. So, no.
I miss the hotel. They've not got the hotel there now, but the food used to be incredible.
Oh, it was. It was just wonderful.
Top notch. Anyway, Bruce, listen, thank you so much for tonight.
Thank you both very much.
Tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please go and look up Bruce on his site. Grab his music book, whatever. Watch out for that. So I can't wait for that solo album to come out. That's going to be great.
Yeah.
And follow the Place and Fiddle stuff on Facebook or on their website as well. Yeah. And all the best, as we can say, for Christmas and New Year. Hopefully, all the fingers crossed, all the businesses get back into one pot again.
Oh, I know. I'm just hoping that by spring we'll be kind of back on our way to some sort of normality. I mean, that would be wonderful. But who knows? I mean, it's just one of those things. Get on with it.
And it's funny you mentioned spring, because it was spring when it happened in March, April. Folk were thinking, we'll be back in the summer, So.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. We might have to dig deeper. We might have to think harder. But it's great to see the musical community speaking like this and playing music like this and diversifying like this. I
actually think the musical community has actually led the way. I've heard so many people in the pub and food industries, and it is hard, but it's hard for everybody. If I hear another, and I was listening to some of the guys on the football, going on about the fans, getting the fans in and how important it is again. Everyone's in the same boat. It's not just your industry, and you shouldn't be treated differently from everybody else. I think musicians have really led the way with the online stuff and keeping people's spirits go up and just communicating with folk.
I think you've been very inspirational, the way that when I've seen you with the businesses and that as well, and doing what you can do and keeping it going the best you can. Yeah. And I think going back to what Ross and Bob were saying earlier on, we have, whatever way this goes, if we hit it positive, we've got a much better chance of going through it all, haven't we? So
absolutely. I mean, you can throw your hands up in the air and curse and swear and shout at people. They don't. Nobody listens.
Exactly.
You're constantly moaning and people get rather bored of it. So,
well, listen, thank you so much for coming on. Have a great Christmas, New Year. Take care of yourself and the family. And thank you for giving up your time. It's been magic having you on, Bruce.
That's all. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Ross.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruce.
Oh, gee whiz.
Yeah.
Two huge names tonight.
Aye, massive. Huge names, actually. Aye.
Huge names and
Yeah.
absolutely genuine, nice people.
Yeah.
Just so positive and going for it. That's been fantastic.
Yeah, really, really good.
Have you gone and stood the whole show again?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm happy standing up, actually. It's fine. It's no bother.
Don't fall over on us or anything like that.
I fell over ages ago. My laptop's actually. I took the curtains with me.
Oh, okay. You're on your side now.
I'm standing up but lying down.
Okay. Well, you're doing quite well, considering you're not drooling out one side of your mouth.
No, you're right enough. Bob did mention that about the going positive, and we're out positive. But on the back of the Trad Awards being last night and all the guests we've had on and all the rest of it, you were the first one that went into this positive, and you sat in that seat and you played for 100 and I think it was 154. Actually, I don't think you stopped, but 150 was a massive milestone. But I think for me, certainly, and a lot of other people, thank you for leading the way and for a lot of positive mentality in the music side of things. So good on you.
It's just good if folk have really got something out of it. It was brilliant to,
Right.
Just be part of it, and we can look back on it all someday, hopefully, and go, hey, we got through that.
Right.
We got through it. Well, anyway, listen, you look after yourself tonight. Go and take the, what is it, Cocodamol or something? I don't know.
No, I'm off the pills now. So.
You're off the pills now? Just onto the drink again?
No, that'll be a fine thing. No, aye. Well done.
Well, it's medicinal. Maybe allowed to go and pour a large dram for medicinal.
But I've not been in the house. There's nothing in the house, not even decorations.
Oh, dear.
So if anybody's passing Dean Court,
better head back out again, I would say.
Drop some.
Anyway, listen, folks, thanks very much for tonight. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you to Cam, backstage Cam. You've been wonderful. You've done a great job there again. And thanks to our guests, Bob Worrall and Bruce MacGregor. That's been magic. That was just, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And well put together.
It's great when you've got people that you learn things.
Yeah, exactly.
So, any words of wisdom?
I have a bit of a word of wisdom before we go. Well done, Peter. Well done for your nomination. I think well done. I think you thoroughly deserve it. And you've been a musical inspiration to me this year. So well done.
A lot of good folk in there as well that's done good this year, so it's good.
And Karen that we can't see.
Yeah.
Well done, Karen, as well.
She's had to put up with me.
Yeah.
Angus is getting a bit fed up now. If I pick the accordion up, the wee boy Angus goes, "Oh no, no, just go away." So do you want to play the accordion, Angus? No. So that's that. Anyway, thanks very much for tonight, folks.
Thanks for a great show. Thanks
to the guests. Thanks to Martin as well. McLeod coming on earlier on. And well done to the news. Brilliant.
Congratulations to them.
Yeah. Take care. Right. That's it. It's a good night for me.
And a good night from him.
Excellent. Oh, damn.